welcome to our Powder Room podcast where the makeup comes off. I am so excited today. We have Pastor Candy West on our podcast, and this is episode number 3. And so we're so excited. She's from Convergence Worship Center in Alabama, in Huntsville, Alabama. Come on, Huntsville, Alabama. And so we're so excited to have her on our podcast today. And listen, the tagline is where the makeup comes off. And so I'm excited because I just want this to be a safe place where women can come together. We can talk about some things to help other women to see a way out. See a way of escape so that they can see that they're not in the fight by themselves, or to see women that are fighting, because we're currently still fighting in different areas of our lives. But not only are we fighting, we're fighting with him, and he's allowing us and he's enabling us to overcome and triumph in areas of our lives. And so again, I want to welcome Pastor Candy West to our podcast. Pastor Candy, and your bio is just unbelievable. From a songwriter, from you're an author, you are a senior pastor, you're a life coach, you minister to women, to people. First of all, just being a pastor alone is enough. And to be able, and not only that, to be a sought after speaker. And by the way, Pastor Candy will be at our I Reign Women's Conference, which will be November the 16th through the 18th. And she'll be speaking on the 16th, that Thursday. And then also, I believe on Friday, doing another Powder Room Live with me, where we can get down and dirty and talk about how we were able to overcome in some areas in our lives. And so we're excited. Again, it's going to be the 16th through the 18th. For those of you who want to be a part of the I Reign Women's Conference, go to our website, go to www.thefamilychurchnj.com. Okay, so without further ado, we're just going to jump right in to our podcast. Welcome, Pastor Candy.
Thank you so much. I am so excited to be here with you today.
Awesome. You know, Pastor Candy, I really want to jump right in because, like I said, one thing that the Lord gave me for the women for our conferences, we have to fight as one. You know, as a woman, as not just a woman who has really taken a back seat in life, but a woman who is out there, you know, out there on what do they call it when you're in a come on guys, help me out, when you're in an army and you're out there on the front line. When you're out there on the front line, and you know, I'm sure there are haters in the camp. I'm sure there's a lot of opposition that comes your way. Just being a female preacher, you know, I know for myself, you know, you're constantly fighting, you know, but realizing, you know what, God is the one who's ordained me, who sent me, and who's graced me to do what I'm doing. And with that, you come with a level of authority. So talk to us a bit about, because I know this has to be a fight, you know, being in ministry, leading people, you know, helping people, and being a single woman, you know, and being a senior pastor. What are some obstacles, or what are some tribulations that you've experienced just being in that role as a woman?
Well, I think you stated some of the obvious things. So first of all, being a woman in leadership, being a senior pastor of a church, especially in a Bible Belt like Alabama. The city that we're in is a very traditional town, where you may have more men leading or more families. So there's a husband and wife co-pastor situation. So female pastors, single female pastors, is not very common. There are a few of us, but some of them are also older. But just the challenges with being a single female senior pastor of a church, you know, you have to overcome the obstacles of sometimes people having to, and they love the church, but they're having to break themselves out of such a traditional mindset, like, this is a woman leading us, or men being open to submitting to a female without having a strong man next to me. However, I have some amazing men in my ministry. I have father types, uncle types, brother and son types in my church, and I'm completely covered here. But when we have people coming in, couples, our church is really growing in couples, which is amazing, because again, the odds being a female single pastor, and having husbands and wives that want to join our ministry and are inspired by the encounter of worship and the word of God that's being preached every week. Those are things that I've had to encounter. And sometimes people will play in your face. This is where the makeup comes off.
Come
People
on.
will play in your face. The truth of the matter is, there are some things that people would not even try if I had a husband. There are some things that people wouldn't even say if I had a man.
That's it.
So
That's
there are
it.
times that I have to rise up in my authority and kill and crush a lot of things with love. But I'm very apostolic in nature, so I don't have a problem with coming to conflict or confronting things. And again, doing so in love. But a lot of things that come from time to time, I'm like, if I had a husband, they wouldn't even try me like that.
Mm-mm.
Amen. But those are things that you have to overcome. And I'm not in contention. I'm very content in my singleness. I am believing God that I am somebody's wife. However, I have learned to be very content in the place that I'm in. I know that me leading as a single female is to serve to be a model for other women in ministry, women that feel a mandate and a call to ministry, and they have their conditions on the table. Like, Lord, I'll only do it if you allow me to be a wife. I'll only do it if I have a husband standing by my side. And I'll be honest with you, Pastor Don, when I really began to prepare myself to take on the pastoral call, I had conditions. I was like, Lord, even when I started getting prophecies about, the mantle on my life and all the things that I was going to do by way of ministry outside of music, I was like, okay, God, I'll be somebody's co-pastor. I'll be somebody's first lady. Now, I'm not a sit pretty and be quiet type. I'm a worshiper. So I got to be doing something. But
Right.
I had conditions, and I had to take my conditions off the table when the opportunity presented itself for me to shift from being a worship pastor to an associate minister to a lead pastor of a church. I had to take my conditions off the table because I realized that God was not moved by my conditions of wanting to be married before I stepped into pastoring. So I've had to overcome those different challenges and even things that I desire to accomplish and see in my heart, but not allowing that to drive a narrative of disappointment, because it's not a disappointment that I'm not married yet. I know that God is using my singleness to encourage other women in ministry that may be doing the best that they can to steward their singleness and leadership as well.
I love it. I love it. Well, first of all, I was really feeling you when you were talking about if I had a man with me, they wouldn't have even tried that. And you know what? I know where I begin and where I end, because just even stewarding over a building, and just even like in your own personal household, the HVAC guy tries to get over on you, the electrician tries to get over on you, but as soon as a man shows up, even when we take our cars to the shop, they always trying to get over on us as women. And so sometimes I'll because in our ministry, I'm the co-pastor, but I'm over administration. So all things building, all things employees, all things ministry. I kind of that's kind of my flow. I'm more of a detailed person, whereas my husband, he is the senior pastor, the visionary. But I preach, teach too. I do all those things as well. But some of those detailed things, again, when a man shows up and you're dealing with a man, sometimes it is very different. Or even being in, and I'm sure you've experienced this, you're in an environment with a bunch of male preachers, and and everybody's talking and act like you don't even exist, and then you might be the speaker, the special guest. You know what I mean? And they turn around and they look like you the guest. The one that you ignored the whole time. Yeah, that's me. That be me. And and you just do what God's called you to do. So As you were talking, I thought about, you know there are many women, and you talked about how you're content in your singleness. What is it that you would say that, your do's and your don'ts in order to keep your mind focused, in order to keep your mind free from wandering, keeping your mind free from, doing some things that it's like, all right, now I can't afford to go there, because if I go there, it can really cause me to negate my testimony, or cause me not to be effective in this area, or because there's many people that are attached to my calling, it could really, hurt and be detrimental to people. So what is it that you would say, Pastor, that you do to kind of keep yourself focused, keep your mind focused, keep your flesh in check?
Yeah, I think well, for me, one of the things that I have an amazing circle of accountability around me. I have people that I can be very honest with about, sometimes the emotional places that I'm not able to show in front of the people, because the first thing that they think as a female pastor is that we're emotional, and that makes it that is it looks like a weakness to people. So we don't get to emote, in front of. Now I will cry in worship, but other things I have a very, I've learned how to kind of keep my emotions to show a level of strength. And then I have the safe places that I can take my armor off. And in that, there's, I have amazing accountability around me. Even if somebody's acting interested, I'm sharing it with my crew. Like, hey, I might go on a date. I want to keep you guys accountable. I want to be accountable to you all, because, should anything happen, should anything go wrong, somebody needs to know. So I keep a level of accountability with my trusted circle. Another way that I do it, I try not to, again, because singleness is not a curse, right? It's not a sentence. It's just a season of my life. And so what I do, I'm always looking at, Lord, how can I live the most fulfilled life as a single woman? I take trips by myself. I go to dinner. I go to the movies. I enjoy my singleness, and I don't allow the narrative of not having a man make me feel like I don't have value or I don't have worth. And it took me a long time, Pastor Don, to get to that place, because the idea of a woman that isn't married, people are like, well, what's wrong with you? You in your 40s and you've never been engaged, you've never been married. And it's like, no, I'm not. I haven't been, and it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with me. I just haven't found my purpose partner yet, because what's on my life, it can't just be just anybody attached to it. So I also understand that. I also understand my values. So those are things that I try to keep before me, to keep me anchored in those seasons where I'm like, man, I was hoping to have matching pajamas this year. I ain't gonna have matching pajamas this year. That's all right. Maybe next year. But
Right.
I have a great circle of accountability that I can be honest with, and I can take my armor off and feel safe. And especially in those moments where I'm having a hard time, and leadership is hard on me, hard on my body, hard on my heart, hard on my mind. I do have places, people, family members, sister friends that I can go to and speak with when I need, just that encouragement to keep going.
I love it. I was thinking as you were talking how, um, you know, how um, how much of a challenge it can be. Just even be now, for a little bit of background about me, I was a principal. I was a college professor, a teacher. Of course, a minister, pastor. So I've always been a leader of, the unisex, men and women. And it could be very difficult to really stand your ground, so to speak. You know what I mean? And without getting challenged by the opposite sex. And I think, women that don't know who they are could really lose their lose their effectiveness of being able to lead, men in those types of arenas. And, just even being a co-pastor, my husband and I, he has his gifts, and I, and I have my own gifts as well. So I don't, the people know I'm not a first lady. They don't call me a first lady because I'm like, well, if I'm the first, well, who the second, who the third, so don't call me the first lady. I'm not a first lady. But I, in the beginning, when we first launched the church, it was a little, rocky, me trying to settle in and be their pastor as well, and but again, I believe we've been in ministry, it's been 7 years now, but prior to that we was in ministry for over 20 something years. And my former pastor passed away, and his wife took over the ministry at that point, and so we stayed with her for an additional 10 years. And I saw the difference in leadership. I saw the difference in, they were pastoring together. Now he passed away. Now she's pastoring. And it was very difficult to make the adjustment, and I think because she wasn't as actively involved prior to his death, you know what I mean? Because she was a good first lady. She was a pastor, but he was the pastor, and it wasn't, I didn't look at it as a team pastorate, And so when she became the pastor, it was very difficult for the transition. So for me as a congregant, at that time, as well as a minister in the ministry, it was very difficult because I felt like not only did I lose my pastor, my senior pastor who passed away, but I felt like I lost, the pastor's wife as well. I lost my mentor because at that point now she had to become everything for everybody. Yeah. Now, that's just a backdrop just to the question for you. How do you maintain still the ability to mentor the women in your church? Because again, I'm the pastor, so I'm both, but there's still that mothering, that needs to take place with the women in the church. How are you able to, and I know you said, you got men in the ministry that help and take on some portion of that. But how are you, do the women feel like, man, I don't have the female part in ministry that I really need, because now, you're being, neutral or trying to be everything for everybody. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am. Well, for me, I believe that there is a healthy balance for me.
Yeah.
One of the things that I try to first exemplify, not only in my strength, but my femininity. I'm very feminine. I'm very strong. I preach very strong, but I'm very feminine. And that's one of the things that I love to model because it's just me. I dress up for church every Sunday. Even if I'm showing up to, like, today is a meeting day for me, and this is my meeting day look. This is a regular day for me, just because I believe, and that was one of the things my therapist, because I do have one, because I definitely need it. But one of the things that my therapist, when I began to transition into the pastorate, she told me to, whatever you do, even as you are engaging in your strength, to nurture your feminine. Like, keep that feminine side of you, nurture that, whatever that takes. And it's more than just getting your nails and your hair done, but there is an essence that you want to exemplify and exude, to model, so that other women can model after that. So I do believe that there's a healthy balance between the strength and the femininity. And the women in my church know I'm very transparent. I'm very open, very honest. I'm an open book, and anybody that wants to talk with me about, relational things or life things, emotional things, I'm an open book. So I try to provide that space for them to be able to learn and glean and grow from me in that regard as well.
Yeah, yeah. I love it. That's so important. It's so important for people to see the feminine part, because even like with me and my husband, in the beginning of our launching the church, I had to establish myself. I'm not him. not trying to be him, don't want to preach like him. This is, he's him. He's a man. I'm not, he sweat like a Hebrew slave preaching. I don't, I sweat, but, I still want to maintain my femininity. And I remember when he said, okay, you're preaching Father's Day. And I was like, oh, because in my previous church, all I did was preach at, women functions, women fellowships, and that kind of stuff. And so I was like, man, Father's Day, I felt so intimidated. Like, what can I say to the men? And the Lord said, first of all, it's not you saying it, it's me saying it. And he gave me a title, and the title was Act Like a Woman, Think Like a Man. And that was the title for Father's Day. And everybody's like, okay, where are you going with this? And of course, the man is the spirit man, but the message was able to speak to both genders. The Lord said, no, you're not picking somebody. You're speaking to everybody. You're speaking my word. And there were so many men that were blessed by it, So again, I don't ever want men to see gender in the pulpit. I want them to see kingdom. I want them to see God, even in my leadership, because there's a lot of men in our ministry that I do, I nurture, I do mother. I am the spiritual mother here in this local church, and they respect that, and they allow me to give them what they need. And of course, my husband is there. He gives them what they need as well. But it's not even always gender per se. It's just, hey, talk to me about my calling, or I can speak into their lives as well. So, and that's important, because at the end of the day, if you receive a prophet in the name of a prophet, you'll receive a prophet's reward. So, if people can receive what is on you and not be so concerned about who it is or what it is, just receive it, then they'll get the blessing from it. And so that's awesome. So I want to talk a little bit about, I know you mentioned about marriages and couples and relationships. I know a lot of times, surely in women environments, women fellowships, I'll say things. I'm like, oh, did I say that? Yep, I sure did. But I'm in a safe space with women that needed to hear that. That they needed to hear, how were you able to overcome certain things in your life, or how were you able to keep your mind focused and keep your flesh in check? But when it comes to men, how are you able to really get to the core of some of the male things that they battle with, that they deal with? Is it that there are men in the ministry that kind of go there, or do you find that you feel comfortable talking about, and if it's okay, talking about masturbation, talking about, them lusting after somebody, or talking to the single men? Do you feel comfortable to be able to even tackle some of those issues when it comes to males?
Absolutely. I have a son. My son is 27 years old. And my son and I have an amazing relationship that we've cultivated over the years. And we have very real talks. And so that's a very comfortable space for me. I'm like the home girl. So I have a lot of male friends. So I don't have a problem talking about perversion. How are you doing with perversion? Talking about those porn subscriptions. I don't have a problem with talking about the things that men may struggle with. And if I feel like there are things outside of my capacity, I will bring men in to give language to it, because there are some certain things that I cannot fully speak to outside of the word of God that a man can possibly speak to. But I'm very, very comfortable in a space with men. I could go and preach at a men's conference just because I'm very comfortable with men. I'm very comfortable around men. I have amazing relationships with men. And again, like I said, my relationship between my son and I is completely bomb. We're able to talk about any and everything. So I'm very comfortable with encouraging men, and being able to stand on my own in front of men. I'm not one of those type of women that feel like I have to diminish when, certain men, even when I'm in certain arenas with, very high level influencers and high level bishops and apostles. I do not dumb down
Come
For the
on.
I don't play small. I'm very honorable, but I own my womanhood. I own my personal authority. I own my voice, my dominion, my anointing. So I don't play small in front of men, but I am very honorable towards men.
And you know what? The men that I've had an opportunity just for some to get to know Brandon Clack. Pastor Brandon Clack was here just last week, and he spoke to the men. Yeah, and he spoke very highly of you. He was, oh, y'all in for a treat, and and then some of the men that attend our ministry here that know you or know of you have spoken very highly of you as well, and that really speaks a lot to your calling and to your gift. And so, Pastor Candy, what are some things that you would say to the women that are coming to the conference or that may listen to this podcast? If there's some areas that they are really, really struggling in, I'm talking about depression, suicidal thoughts, struggling in their singleness, people who are constantly doing things, and they know that in order for you to be who God's called you to be, you cannot go into the next season with that type of behavior. Whether it's, hey, I can't stop, lusting in my mind. I'm shacking up. I just settle for anything. What are some things that you would say to those women who, for some, there are areas in their lives that obviously that there's some brokenness. And again, mostly things come from their childhood or their past. What are some things that you would say to them in order to kind of get them out of that trance, out of that way of thinking, out of that way of being? What are some things that you would share with them?
Well, first and foremost, I thank God for the Holy Ghost, but I
Yeah.
do believe that a lot of times, especially not just women in the church, women in general, in the culture and the society that we live in, a lot of women are faced with a lot of trauma. It can be from childhood, it can be from sexual abuse, molestation, rape, mother wounds, father wounds, abandonment, rejection issues, and a lot of those things that they don't have the emotional bandwidth to deal with by themselves. The first thing I would encourage them, get you a good therapist. You cannot deny the need for healing and then expecting that your heart is going to heal on its own. You got to be willing to do the work to invest in yourself. You got to be able to deal with the hard things, because hard work is hard work. And you want to be married, or you want to be give your husband a better version of a wife, then you've got to be willing to deal with the things that you feel like are keeping you from being that better version of yourself. And it starts with going to the root of the trauma. It starts with having to revisit those painful places and allow God, through the power of the Holy Ghost, and also with the assistance of a counselor or a therapist that can help give you tips and tools that you can begin to build upon your healing and your journey of wholeness. But you've got to be willing to address the things that have kept you at a place of stagnation. And even with where you may be, whether it's dealing with anxiety, dealing with depression, even coming out of agreement with those things, like saying my depression, my anxiety, what you're doing, you're putting a stamp on those things, and you're giving those things an opportunity to rule your life. So you have to begin to come out of agreement with those vows that you've made, even the things that sometimes we say as women, I'll never let nobody hurt me like that again. I'll never let a man make me cry like that again. And then what you do, you start making those kind of vows, and then you can't even cry in worship, because you've shut off the valve of your emotions for the sake of safeguarding your heart. And now you can't even feel when God is trying to prick right there. You can't even feel when God is trying to heal right there. And you're denying and rejecting the hand of God because of those vows that you made to safeguard and self-protect yourself. So you have to begin to, moment by moment, layer by layer, start dealing with the root. And don't try to do it by yourself. Don't try to seek advice from people that are just as broken as you. Get some sound, wise counsel from somebody that can properly help you process, that can appropriate your healing, appropriate the measures of healing, and do it for you. Don't do it so you can be a better this or a finer this. Don't lose the weight so a man can see you. Do it because you want to be healthy. Do it because you
Mm.
don't want to die young. Do it because you want to live a healthy, long life. You want to look good in your clothes. Do it because it's for you and you're willing to do whatever it takes to offer your future self a better version of you.
Mm, I love that. I love how, number one, that you were, the first thing you led with was, I have a therapist. And that's big. That's big. That right there just shuts down any kind of pride, any kind of, I got this, I know what I'm doing, and you know who I am, and you know what I've accomplished. I wrote a book. I'm a life coach. No. I have a therapist. And that's a good thing because we should have people that we are accountable to. I always tell people you should have three different type of relationships. Somebody should be pouring into you. You should be pouring into somebody, and you should have peer relationships so that you can be accountable on all different levels. So I think that is an awesome thing, even when I mentioned Brandon Clark, that's my pastor, having a covering, having somebody that's going to help to speak into your life, to cover you, to make sure that you have everything that you need in order to be successful in the call that's on your life. And that's big. A lot of times people, I don't know, I think Pastor Candy, I think we make it look easy for people. And so they think, oh, I could do that, but not realizing that there are safeguards that we have in our lives to enable us to do it. Even with my husband and I, we do ministry together. We are a team. But guess what? We got boundaries. This is the way you pray over sister such and such. This is the way I don't meet with men by myself without, my husband being there or another male leader being there. He doesn't do this or we don't do that. And it helps us to be able to have the successful marriage. You know what I mean? Because, like I know, ministry can break you if you ain't strong enough to be able to endure. You know what I'm saying? If you're not strong enough to be able to know that you're not in this by yourself, but God is the one that's leading you. He's the one that's guiding you. Therefore, you can do the things that you do. So you can have those hard conversations, where or people you got to correct and it be okay, because you realize I'm not building the ministry off of them. I'm building the ministry off of him. And because I'm building it off of him, I can correct somebody. So because at the end of the day, we want to position people to be in the proper place and in the right direction that God has for them to be. So I love it. I think that was just a tremendous thing. If I didn't get anything from this talk today, I got that you can't do this thing by yourself and you need help. And you need good help. And sometimes you need professional help so that you can be your best you. And that's important because the people who are depressed, who are suicidal, who are insecure, who don't know, if they coming or going, those are individuals that think they got this and they can do it all by themselves. And they run from the church versus running to it. But unfortunately, when we stop at just people, and then that's where you get the church hurt, no, church don't hurt, church heals, people hurt. What I'm saying? You got to get past the people because come to the church because the church is designed to heal you because He is the one who is over the church. So I'm excited. You blessed my socks off today. Thank you so very much for your transparency, for your honesty, for your love for people just came through through this technology. I felt it. I'm excited about it. I'm excited about you coming, pouring into the ladies and Thank you for even agreeing to have a little sit down so we can bring it down a little bit. We're gonna preach, but then they need to have a little sit down. I need to be able to ask some questions. I need to know, how do I do this? What are those 1, 2, 3 steps? So I appreciate your willingness to be able to do that. And again, for those of you who are listening or watching our podcast, the iReign conference is November the 16th through the 18th, 2023. Come on out. Be blessed. We're right here in Voorhees, New Jersey. Come on, somebody. So come on out. Go to our website, www.thefamilychurchnj.com. Well, Pastor Candy, listen, if you have a couple of seconds, what can you say or say something to encourage the ladies to come out so that they can be in an environment where, there'll be a tribe of women who are like-minded that are just ready to pour into them? What is it that you would say to encourage them for November the 16th through the 18th?
Well, the first thing I would say is this is really where you want to be. There's going to be so many different encounters that will really encourage you. You're going to get language for your future. You're going to get insight on how to navigate where you are right now. You're going to be in an environment with like-minded sisters and believers that are looking and seeking for God to give them strategy and answers. I believe that it's going to be a powerful atmosphere of impartation and deliverance. And so if you've been carrying some weight, you need to come and release that weight in the presence of the Lord. I believe that there is going to be amazing opportunities for you to receive something that will shift the trajectory of your life. And if you're anything like me, I wouldn't walk, I would run to the iReign conference, as we're going to be fighting together as one, and you need to partner up with some sisters that'll stand back to back with you and say, sis, I got this.
That's it. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for your time, and thank you for allowing us to be blessed by your gift. And just the fact that you're a lover of people. And thank you so much again. That translated so well over this podcast. Thank you so much again to our Powder Room guests. We have Pastor Candy West in the building. Thank you so much. We can't wait to see you.
I can't wait to see
November the 16th through the 18th. God bless you, Pastor Candy.
God bless you, Pastor Don. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
November 16th through the 18th, make sure you are in the building. Pastor Candy West.
God gave you a voice and you won't even listen to it because you got 32 other voices that are commanding your ship, and you don't even know why you're getting seasick. It's because you need to steady your ship.
Pastor Don Winsley.
You worry about your journey and going through. When you go through, you'll see that I'm right there every step of the way. I said I won't leave you and I won't forsake you. Don't allow your pain to break you.
Jacqueline Carr.
Whatever God has said over your life, it will come to pass. And don't you stop until you get your portion.
Pastor Sarah
The enemy is
Keller.
saying, who do you think you are? The enemy is lying and saying you don't deserve good things. And I just want you to know that is a lie from the pit of hell. The enemy, he's going to work overtime to keep us in bondage.
Pastor Siobhan
What
Smith.
you need is a touch from the master who can change your life and make you new, where you'll never be the same again.
iReign Women's Conference 2023.
Get your tickets at www.thefamilychurchnj.com.